Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for attending tonight. My name is Paul Bull, and I will be the moderator for this evening's candidate debate. Before we begin, I will ask that you please silence your phones and any other devices you have brought. Vibrate is fine. I see people already running cameras, which is also fine, as long as it's on silent. Please refrain from any interruptions during the debate, as this is being recorded for on-demand viewing and post-captioning services. This is, folks, the Citizens Clean Election Commission is the sponsor for this evening's event. The Clean Election Act is a campaign finance reform and public education measure initiated by Arizona citizens and passed by voters in 1998. The Clean Elections Act was created to allow campaigns to be more issue-oriented and less negative. The system provides full funding for qualified candidates who participate voluntarily. The candidates agree to abide by the Clean Elections Act and rules, which include contribution and spending limits, forging special interest money, as well as participating in commission debates. The candidates invited to participate tonight are in contested primaries. I'll deviate just for a second because there was a question posed as to why there was not a representative here this evening from the Democrats and or the Green Party. And the reason being is they are running unopposed in the primary. Okay? For tonight's debate, questions have been prepared by the Clean Elections based on a voter survey, as well as questions that have been submitted by voters through the Clean Elections smartphone app. However, we do encourage and we have received questions from the live audience, and those will take precedent. Okay, so there is an independent timer this evening for the candidates. I have introduced them, but if you'll just raise your hand, whoever's keeping the time, thank you so much. Okay, the format for this evening. We will begin with a 2-minute opening statement from each candidate. We then have a suggested lightning round, a little fun question, and then we will get on with the questions from the audience as well as from Clean Elections. We will then finish with a 1-minute closing statement. We do ask that you remain polite for all of the candidates and give them fair and uninterrupted hearing, no matter how strongly you may agree or disagree with what they're saying. I will try to be fair, and we'll do the introductions, and we will begin starting with Sonny, working our way down the table, and then when we do close, we'll come back the other direction. I will also rotate the questions. The candidates this evening have a little bit of a challenge in that there are 6 of them, and some of the questions for candidates 4, 5, and 6 become a little challenging to answer. So, having said that, Sonny, would you please start with a 2-minute opening statement?
Sonny Borrelli, currently your state representative. I spent 22 years in the Marine Corps. I moved to Arizona and reside in Lake Havasu City in the year 2000. I've been here ever since, and let me see, I was elected to City Council for Lake Havasu in 2010. I served until 2012. I ran for the Arizona House of Representatives in 12 and was elected. I'm just finished my second term, so for the last 4 years, I've been your current state representative. I'm the chairman for the Military Affairs and Public Safety Committee in the House, the vice chairman for the Judiciary, and I'm on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. I've also been appointed to be as a member of the as a joint legislative committee on border security and homeland security. Like I said, and I'm running for the state Senate.
And I would be remiss to say, thank you, Sonny, 2 of these folks up here are running for Senate, and that would be Ron on the other end and Sonny here on this end, and the 4 in the middle then are running for the House, okay? And Jennifer, your time.
Okay, thank you. My name is Jennifer Jones. I'm the La Paz County Republican Committee First Vice Chair, and I publish a quarterly newspaper called the Desert Freedom Press. I'm a Goldwater Republican, so I'm not running to impose my personal views on the public. I'm running to stop bad bills from becoming bad laws and to protect your hard-earned money. I'm retired, so this would not be my second job. And if you want something done right, then do it yourself. So I'm volunteering my services and my considerable experience as our founding fathers intended, because I believe the other 3 Republican candidates in the House race are absolutely abysmal choices, and none of them deserve my vote. Regina Cobb is a former Democrat and is a professional lobbyist who admitted to the Standard newspaper, "I'm not as right as probably the Republican Party would like me to be." She has repeatedly received failing scores on her voting record from the Arizona Republican Assembly on their legislative scorecard, and if she wants to vote like a liberal, she should return to the opposing party, because you deserve better. Sam Medrano is an establishment crony and tax and spend career politician whose greatest accomplishment was keeping red light cameras out of Bullhead City, but when you consider how many times he's lost his driver's license for traffic tickets, it seems more than a little self-serving. According to his rap sheet on the Arizona Supreme Court case lookup, his own city had to take him to civil court to collect the unpaid fines. He used the magistrate judge to purge his local court records so his constituents can't access them. And he used a Nevada address as his residence for 2 tickets while as a sitting elected official. Paul Mosley claims to be conservative, but he had no problem squandering public resources for a failed attempt at personal gain in his meritless challenge to my nominating petitions. He lost because he doesn't understand the law, which is necessary for legislators. He touts himself as a financial advisor, but he's so unpopular that he couldn't even get himself elected as treasurer of the county party. He's just another go-along to get along establishment bootlicker with no experience and no real understanding of the issues, and you deserve better. On August 30th, don't dilute your vote. Just vote for me. Thank you.
Okay. Paul?
Hi, my name is Paul Mosley, and I am a resident of Lake Havasu City, Arizona, and I'm happy to be here and happy to see all of you guys here today. I am the father of 6 children, married to my wife, Brinley, for 10 years. I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, and I went to Brigham Young University, Idaho, and Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah. I got my associates in economics, and I got my bachelor's in business management. I'm a certified financial planner for Ameriprise Financial, and I love what I do. I am a born Republican, and I always tell people there's 3 things that Republicans were born to do. 1, reduce taxes. 2, keep the free market free. And the third one is to keep our rights and our freedoms, like guns and pro-life. So I'm very happy to be here, and I look forward to serving the good people of Mojave and La Paz County. I love my country, I love my God, and I love my family. And I look forward to being able to go down to the Arizona House of Representatives and work on the budgets, give the infrastructure that we need, the roads and schools, sewer and water, electricity. I grew up with a family in agriculture. My mother grew up in Nevada on a ranch and a farm, and I know that agriculture is important for the food that we eat. 20% of our GDP is agriculture, and that's our #1 export. I will defend the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and I hope that you will vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Sam?
Good afternoon. My name is Sam Medrano. I was born and raised in Arizona, in Globe, Arizona, as a matter of fact, and I moved to Bullhead City in 1992, and I've lived here ever since. I am a reporter by trade. I started when I moved here in 1992 as a reporter with the Bullhead City Bee, and moved to TV2 KLBC television station in Laughlin, where I've been off and on for about the last 15 years. I also served as the district manager for Domino's Pizza in Mojave and La Paz County, as well as 2 stores in southern Nevada. I also served 2 years as a math and science teacher at Mojave Accelerated Learning Center here in Bullhead City. 12 years I served on the Bullhead City Council. If there's one thing I learned by serving in the Bullhead City Council is that you have to build coalitions to make your city better. And sometimes those coalitions run across other governments, and you have to work with those other governments. And many times what I learned is so many of things that affect our community originate at the state capitol in Phoenix. When things went bad with our state budget during the recession, the state legislature decided they were going to ignore that there was actually a recession and continue spending money. Bullhead City, Lake Havasu City, Kingman, the county, we all made the necessary cuts, but the state didn't. And what the state chose to do was balance their budget on the backs of cities, towns, counties, school districts, and anybody else they could steal money from. That made it very tough to work for your city and serve your city. And as a result of that, that's the reason I want to go down to the state capitol. And if you can't beat them, join them, work, get these things turned around. Think about it. The recession happened in 2007, 2008. Here we are 9 years later, and we're barely getting things back in order. Two most important things we have to do is, number one, continue that trend so we get it back in order, and number two, put mechanisms in place so it doesn't get repeated. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Regina?
Hi, I'm Regina Cobb. Is my microphone working? Okay. I'm Regina Cobb. I'm your current state representative, been your current state representative for the last 2 years. I'm a dentist in Kingman, Arizona. I've had a practice there for 23 years. I've raised my kids there. They've gone to public schools and graduated from, both of them went to ASU and have graduated from since then, but not from ASU. My husband is also a graduate of ASU, so we're born Arizonans. He was born in Winslow and actually has lived in Kingman his whole life. I have been your health chair for the last 2 years, and I'm on Ag, Water, and Land. And when I originally went on to Ag, Water, and Land committee, I didn't know anything about agriculture and water and land and what needed to be done, but I learned a lot, and I went on there because of the issues that we have within our county. And that's why I decided to go on there, and I've been able to work with many of the members in this community on those issues. I'm also on Child and Family Services, and that's also a big hotspot over the last few years, and we've had to do some reforms in the Child and Family Services area. When I originally ran, I ran because of increased regulations with Obamacare. I ran because I was in the middle of fund sweeps. I am a hard worker, common sense, and yes, I was born a Democrat, but before age 21, I've been registered a Republican since then, so as far as I'm concerned, I'm long aged from 21 years old. And so I've been a Republican for many, many, many years. So I knew the ways of the world way back then. So thank you for allowing me to be your state representative, and I hope you allow me to do it for 2 more years.
Thank you. Ron?
My name is Ron Gould, and I'm a candidate for the state Senate. I'm endorsed by America's toughest sheriff, Joe Arpaio. I'm an air conditioning contractor and a small businessman, and I've done that for 32 years. I've been married to my wife, Janice, for 32 years also, coincidentally. I have 3 adult children and 3 grandchildren. And the grandchildren is the reason that I'm interested in going back into politics. If you feel like I do, and that America is in sad shape and it's not the same country that it was when you were a child, you might want to get involved in politics. Because if you don't get involved in politics, politics still gets involved in you. During my time in the Senate, I was the #1 conservative in the state. 7 out of 8 years, I was #1 on the Goldwater scorecard. 5 years out of 8, I was #1 on Americans for Prosperity scorecard. So when I tell you that I'm a conservative, I actually mean it, and it's actually true. I realize I'm a politician, and you have to disregard half of what I say. But this stuff is actually true, and you can go and check it out. Because every Republican will tell you they're a conservative at primary time. And in reality, they don't have the voting record to back that up. You know, we need to take a look at what's going on in the state. We need to hold the line. Today, a report came out from Americans for Prosperity that they marked down the entire legislature. Not only 3 members actually got even friend of the taxpayer. The rest got a lower score than that. That's pitiful, folks. We need to change that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we'll go on with the questions presented to us from the audience. And the first question, we will start with Jennifer and then again work away from me. Okay? Yes. This one will be 60 seconds, 1 minute. Okay? Okay, as a representative from rural Arizona, what experience makes you uniquely qualified for our voices and concerns to be acted upon at the state level?
Well, that's easy. I publish a quarterly conservative independent newspaper, which is distributed to 30,000 readers around the district across both Mojave and La Paz County. Whenever an issue comes up, there's a pretty good chance that I've probably written an article about it, and not just one that was regurgitated from the Associated Press, but one that was actually researched, where I spent a lot of time digging into the issue. So whereas Representative Cobb says that she got on the Ag Committee and didn't know anything about ag, water, or land, I know quite a bit about those issues. I know quite a bit about most of the issues involved with this county and with this district. All of rural Arizona is very similar. It faces the same problems, whether you're in Yuma or whether you're up here in Bullhead City or down in Quartzsite or Parker or Ehrenberg. You know, it's a tourist-driven economy. We need jobs. We're landlocked by the Bureau of Land Management. It doesn't matter where you go. The issues are truly, truly the same. But I'm uniquely qualified because I have researched these issues. I understand the problems of this district, and I'm prepared to take them on at the legislature. Thank you.
Paul?
I'm the very most qualified to do this job because I understand money, I understand finance, I understand budgets. I work with individuals every day who are savers and some that are spenders. And I know that, you know, we have to spend less than we make, and we need to allocate our resources where they need to be allocated so that we can have the infrastructure and the things that we need to make Arizona a great state. Today I received the endorsement of the Free Enterprise Club, which is a really great thing because in the first round there was only 5 of us endorsed, and I was one of them. I also am a team player, and I respect other people. I listen to my constituents, and I'm going to do what's best for Lake Havasu, Kingman, Bullhead, and La Paz County. I'm going to do what's best for us, the Arizonans and the people who live right here. Thank you.
Thank you. Sam?
Well, I say I'm uniquely qualified because I'm the only person in this race that's born and raised in rural Arizona. I've known nothing but rural Arizona. Something that, when you go down to the legislature, there's 60 people that you have to work with, and not all of them are from our area. A lot of them are from Phoenix, a lot of them from Tucson. There's some from Flagstaff and Payson. And I've been to these cities, and I know a lot of the issues in these cities. I worked at the newspaper in Payson for a couple of years. I know rural Arizona, and while there are similarities, there are differences. And when it comes time to doing good for people of Mojave and La Paz County, and you need the votes of other people across the state, it's good to know not only their issues on the other side of the state, but you have actually been there and you have actually worked with them on other issues. Payson, for instance, is trying to build a university like Lake Havasu has. This is something that they've been working on for a number of years, and I understand that issue, and it is something that we have in common that we can relate to. So I know these things. I know rural Arizona, and I just don't think that you can come up here and say that you, unless you've been there, you can't say that you know it.
Regina?
Well, I think I'm uniquely qualified because I'm your current state representative, and I've been for the last 2 years. I feel like I've done a great job. I've probably been one of the hardest working state representatives that you'll ever see. I go there in the morning. I start early in the morning. I'm there all day. I finish up late at night. Sometimes I'm answering your emails in the middle of the night. I usually get 300 emails a day. I weed through them, I get back to them, and if I answer you on an email, it's usually in the middle of the night. I get up about 2:30 in the morning and start answering your emails. And that's because you are my constituents and I work for you. I don't work to get scorecards. I don't work to get endorsements. I work for you as a legislator, and that's my job. And so if I'm not on Facebook, if I'm not on Twitter, if I'm not doing those things, it's usually because I'm working hard for you. And that's my job. That's what I do. And I usually am voting with a lot of experience, and I read the bills, and everybody down there knows that I do my homework. Thank you.
Rob?
You know, my parents didn't raise me to be a politician. They raised me to get a job and go to work and support myself, and I think I've done a good job of doing that as a small businessman for the past 32 years. I'm also a successful husband and father. Yeah, I've managed to stay married to my wife for 32 years. She's a long-suffering woman, that's all I can really say. You know, I got involved in politics because I got tired of people making bad decisions on my behalf. And it's not as though I volunteered them to go and make bad decisions on my part. The government just tries to control too much of our lives. You know, Arizona has a history of a limited government philosophy. And if you take a look at my record, I'm the most limited government philosophy type person that's up here. And once again, it's not just because I tell you that. You can go and check my record. Thank you.
Sonny?
Over the last 4 years, I've managed to have 38 bills signed into law by the governor. These are bills that cut government red tape, streamline the process for government, cutting down bureaucratic resistance and bureaucracies in Phoenix. And believe me, Phoenix is a target-rich environment for state bureaucracies. And also cutting government red tape for businesses and helping businesses move and get things done. And also working with our counties and our cities to be able to make them be able to function. For example, even our sheriff's department. And this was done through teamwork and building relationships with our local city and county governments, as well as building relationships with our other legislatures and the governor, and also some state agencies that we definitely need help with. You can't get anything done if you keep kicking people in the shins or poke them in the eye and then ask them for your help when we actually need it. This was done through teamwork. As a matter of fact, last year alone, our legislature, done. Okay. Time.
Okay, thank you, folks. Good segue there, Sonny, for the next question. I'm going to kind of combine two here, folks. And this question will begin with Paul and again work down the other way. As a District 5 member, what would you like to try to accomplish during the term of office? And then also, what would you like to see as your first bill? And I'll give you 90 seconds for this.
I'd like to accomplish limited or shrink the size of government, so possibly lower the budget if possible. Increase economic growth in the state, increase personal freedoms, deregulate where possible. If I had a first bill, it would probably be something to streamline the money that comes from the state that goes to our schools, so that the schools don't have to necessarily get a bond issue and then take that money and part of the money that they're paying off is going to interest. I wish there was a way that we could get most of the money that goes to our schools, and that we could get that money to the teachers where it needs to go in the classrooms. I'm an advocate of school choice. I want the parents to be able to pick where their kids are educated, whether that's a charter school, a private school, a public school. I'd love to see lots of other different kinds of schools, like aeronautical schools, military schools, whatever you might need or want, trade schools, and let our creativity and our ingenuity come out of Arizona so that we're a leader in our education.
Thank you. Sam?
Well, first of all, I don't really have a first bill that I want to introduce. I'm not going down there to make more rules. I'm going down there hopefully to eliminate some of the rules and get them out of the way. I believe the most important job the legislator has is the budget. I think that is something that we need to tackle earlier on in the legislative session, not something to be crammed at the end of the legislative session. I know as a freshman lawmaker you don't have a lot of say in that, but if you start working on it, you can get it done and get it done correctly. I think that's the number one job that I will tackle. We need to keep allowing HERF revenues to continue to flow to cities and towns and counties. We need to continue to support our school districts. I think that we have too many school districts in the state of Arizona, so if there was something that I would advocate early on is to do something about the administrative costs of our school districts. I think we have a great example here in Bullhead City with the consortium between the Bullhead City Elementary School District and the Colorado River Union High School District, where they've saved $750,000 over the last 5 years by just simply combining their administrative services together. I think that's a great example to spread around the state, and I think that's something that the legislature can tackle. But when it comes to your most important job, I go back to the budget. I think we need to set a policy as to minimum salaries for teachers. I think we need to make it easier to become a teacher. I think we need to do what we can to keep our teachers here. We are spending too much time training teachers and having them send off to other states because they pay more. It's something that we need to tackle. getting money back to the county, for instance. We have sheriff's deputies that need raises desperately. They're piecemealing their raises this year, it looks like, and it's something that we can tackle at the legislature.
Well, I happen to agree with Mr. Medrano right here on our most important issue that we have when we get into the legislature is balancing that budget. And over the last 2 years, we've done that. And actually, we didn't have it planned to be structurally balanced until 2018, and we did it this year. So I think we've done a great job over the last 2 years, and I think that we just need to continue on with that role. Economic development is huge, and that's one of the reasons we've been able to balance a budget is because we put out there that we're open for business, and that's what we want to do is open for business. Decrease regulations, especially like on our electrical companies, the Mojave Electric Co-op and some of the solar industries and things like that. You want to decrease the regulations so they're allowed to open up business here also. Some of the things that I want to tackle this year, though, is welfare reform. That's probably going to be my number one issue, and it's what I've been working on over the summertime, and it's something I'm going to be working on this next year. The EBT cards that are out there, there's a lot of fraud. We just had a legislator get indicted for that over the last few days, and that is something that I think that we need to do. Justin Olson started a bill last year. They've asked me to kind of pick up the pieces and run with it this year, and I'm planning on doing that. Besides welfare reform, I'm working on a TPT contractor restructuring. So we have a mess right now. And it's a big job. I started it last year again and came into a brick wall, but we're going to get through the finish line. I've got a couple of senators working with me on that one also. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, the reason that governments exist is to protect individual liberties. If you take a look at the Declaration of Independence, it states that we have certain inalienable rights and that governments are created to protect these rights. So in my mind, that's always number one. I do have some other ideas, though, that I think are pretty interesting. When I was in the legislature previously, the Auditor General would rate school districts on how much of their money actually went into the classroom. And at that time, I use Lake Havasu for an example, about 60% of that money went into the classroom. Now that number is down to about 54%. To me, that's problematic because I feel that money that doesn't get into the classroom isn't really doing the benefit for that child and for the taxpayer, really, because the taxpayer is the customer in government education. What we may want to do to make that more palatable to schools is actually reduce the regulation on those schools and let them operate similar to charter schools who have more freedom. I don't have a problem giving them more freedom in exchange for putting more money in the classroom. Thank you.
Well, Regina Cobb hit it right on the nail. We have the most structurally balanced budget since 2005. We did it ahead of schedule. When I got to the legislature, spending was already out of control, and the state has big-time debt. So we inherited a budget in a shambles. So what we were able to do this year, and this is one of the reasons why Americans for Prosperity kind of dinged us on the budget, because we paid off 3 of the 4 rollover debts. That was for K-12 education, DES, and CPS. We retired those rollover debts, if you will, accounting gimmicks. Not only that, but we put another $150 million more in education. We established the Border Security Task Force, and we need to continue to balance that budget. Otherwise, we're going to start, once again, starting to skim HERF funding to go fund other operations within the state instead of it where it's intended for. Over the last 4 years, we were able to restore HERF funding to the tune of $30 million a year for the last 4 years. So once again, we're righting that financial ship and we're getting things on the right track, and we need to maintain focus on that. And sure, I agree with Ron, education funding is an extremely complicated issue, and it needs to be more simplified and deregulated and stop putting a lot of the administrative mandates on the administration that forces more money back into the classroom. And there's, as far as first bills go, when I'm elected to the Senate, it just depends what committees I'm assigned to.
Okay. Finally, Jennifer.
Well, it would be hard not to agree with Ron Gould. He's one of the finest legislators we've ever had. But there's a lot of things that I'd like to accomplish. It's a pretty long list. I'll see if I can get through some of them in 60 seconds. I'd like to see Arizona get rid of the Common Core standard in our education. I'd like to see us fund education properly so that it goes into the classrooms and not into private prisons. I'd like to see that allocated funds like highway user revenue funds and state lake improvement funds actually go to the purpose for which they were intended. I'd like to make sure that we stop sweeping the state shared revenue away from the counties and the municipalities. I'd like to see us end civil asset forfeiture and push back against federal mandates. Protect our water resources like Lake Mead and our aquifers for future generations. I'd like to take back control of our federal lands as state trust lands and put them back on the tax rolls so that we actually get money pouring into the counties where it ought to be. And I'd like to make sure that we protect our Second Amendment rights. As far as the first bill, there's one that really bugs me. Right now, if government officials break the open meeting law, we have open meeting law enforcement team. We spend taxpayer money to investigate those complaints. But the state law says if government officials break the law, they may be fined. I think it's a $400 or $500 fine. I'd like my first bill to be they shall be fined, because government officials should not get a pass on breaking the law when the citizen doesn't. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I have about 2 pages of questions that came from Clean Elections, and Jennifer just covered about 97% of them. So in 90 seconds, that was pretty impressive.
Thank you.
All right. Now, this will be an interesting question. We'll give you 60 seconds for this one. And Sam, sadly for you, it starts with you. And I'll kind of slightly rephrase it. It's a short question, but what presidential candidate do you support and why?
I support Donald Trump. I support Donald Trump because he's bringing a lot of things to the forefront that have been swept under the carpet for a long time. I think a lot of people thought immigration had kind of disappeared and was going to be down low, but when he announced his candidacy, he brought it back out and realized, and I think the country and the establishment Republicans quickly learned that there's quite a bit of consternation about that issue, and he's not afraid to tackle those kind of issues. I really like that when somebody's not afraid to tackle an issue that needs to be addressed.
Regina?
Well, I support Donald Trump also, but not for the same reasons that he does. I had another candidate in mind when we went to trying to go through our preference elections. But now that Donald Trump is the Republican Party candidate, that's why I support him.
I wholeheartedly support Donald Trump. He's the nominee. He will be the nominee of the Republican Party. And it was interesting. All the establishment Republicans and politicians in general, and the media also, forgot that we are still upset about illegal immigration. That it was just below the surface, and Donald Trump scratched that and brought that back up. I was in the legislature when we passed out Senate Bill 1070. I was in the legislature when we passed out employer sanctions. I was in the legislature when we passed out voter ID. So I was there for that battle, and I remember that battle, and we won some and we lost some. We don't have sanctuary cities in Arizona anymore because of those things. When you saw the murderer, the illegal alien murderer in San Francisco that had formerly lived in Arizona, he formerly lived in Arizona for a reason. We made Arizona an unfriendly place to be an illegal alien. Thank you.
Sonny?
Well, my first choice was a constitutional conservative, and that was Ted Cruz. But since Donald Trump is leading the way on this one, I'm going to dance with the one that brung us. So he's going to be the nominee, and I think we should support him. Pretty much anybody on the Republican bench that was running for president is better than the alternatives on the Democrat side, so I'm going to be very biased on that issue. As far as the border goes, it's no doubt this border is very porous. We have an armed invasion of drug smugglers and human traffickers coming across the border with impunity. The federal government's not doing their job. Arizona's not waiting around for them to do their job. That's why the governor formed the Border Security Task Force. I'm glad to say, and I was proud to be on the ground floor of actually implementing and getting the funding and part of the operational infrastructure put together for that, to support that. We had a Senate bill that came forth to put a little bit more enhancement on a sentence for an illegal alien that commits a violent crime.
Jennifer?
And they think women can talk. I was a delegate to the state convention. In the presidential preference election, I voted for Rand Paul. However, that was my place and time to make my voice known to the precinct committeemen who chose the state delegates who went to the state convention. As a delegate to the state convention, I supported Donald Trump because 60-something% of Mojave County and a similar percentage in La Paz County said that is what we want. People forget they represent the people. I was horrified at the number of people at the state convention who were trying to hijack the convention for someone other than the people's choice. I am the La Paz County chairman for the Donald Trump campaign, even though I did not vote for him, because I represent you, the people. Not what I want, not what I think should happen or wish would have happened in another world, but when we are voted into office, even if it's just as precinct committeemen, we represent the people of our district or of our precinct, and we are doing your business, not our own. Hashtag never Hillary.
And finally, Paul.
I supported Ted Cruz as the presidential nominee until Donald Trump became the presumptive nominee. I promised everybody that I would support whoever that presumptive nominee was. So I am a go Trump go. I believe this is probably one of the most important elections we've had in my lifetime. You know, I was alive when Reagan was elected, and it was really important that he got elected when he got elected, but the country was different then than it is now. Right now, we are facing potentially 2, maybe 3 replacements in the Supreme Court, and we need a Republican to replace these Supreme Court justices. Otherwise, we're in big trouble. 4 years ago, Mitt Romney lost by 5 million votes because there were a lot of people that wouldn't unite behind him. There were 38 million evangelicals that didn't vote for him. And so we need to unite around our nominee for president, Donald Trump.
Okay, thank you. Just a few more questions from the audience here. Are there any, if you have any note cards of questions, please raise your hand. I'll have somebody grab it. Okay, this next question, then we'll start with Regina. And 60 seconds, sorry, they're a timekeeper.
Lightning.
She's strict. She starts yelling at me, we're all in trouble. Yeah, you yelled at me. Okay, I'm combining a few questions here, and it's regarding campaign funding. And so I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, but do you or would you accept donations / dark money, and are you receiving clean election campaign funds? And we'll start with Regina, please.
Well, I'm not receiving clean elections campaign funds. I'm a general funding on my traditional funding. And yeah, I do. I receive money from individuals. I receive money from PACs. I don't receive dark money. You know, as far as what I'm concerned, dark money is independent expenditures. And as far as I know, with independent expenditures, you can't know where they're coming from. So as far as I know, I'm not receiving any dark money. And I feel like a traditional campaign is what I would like to run, and that's because I don't feel the taxpayers should be paying for an election.
Technically, a candidate cannot receive dark money because dark money is actually outside expenditures, and you're forbidden to have any coordination with a dark money group. So that part of the question is rather irrelevant. I don't think I'll be the beneficiary of any dark money. That's probably more apt to be my opponent, who has a way closer relationship with lobbyists than I do, and that's where that kind of money comes from. Thank you.
I am not taxpayer-funded election. I'm running traditional. I run my own campaign. I'm trying to stay positive. As far as dark money goes, I don't know who's going to support me or be against me out there, so you never know. I try to build relationships with everybody because, you know, I think it's a cheap shot when somebody says about lobbyists. You'll have one lobbyist who represents 10 different types of clients. The Goldwater Institute lobbies, Americans for Prosperity lobbies, the NRA lobbies, Arizona Citizen Defense League lobbies. Everybody pretty much lobbyists. But, you know, the one lobbyist that I really do pay attention to was when I first ran for the House. This nice little lady, elderly lady, gave me 2 cents. She had to give me her 2 cents worth. And I have that framed on my desk. It says, shut up and listen, and there's 2 cents. And it reminds me of who I'm representing. So I'm not taking any dark money.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Just because something is legal doesn't necessarily mean it's ethical. I am not running clean elections. I am a grassroots, people's funded candidate. I'm right now running on a $500 threshold committee. Last time I ran on a $500 threshold committee and received 5,236 votes. More votes per dollar spent than anyone probably in the state, and almost as many as Mr. Medrano received running on clean elections money. I don't think people understand what clean elections money is. It's a mandated addition to your court fines. So I don't think that people who don't support me should be forced by government essentially to fund my campaign. It feels icky to me, with all due respect to the people putting on this debate today. And you know, we have a problem with campaign finance reform, and I think a lot of our legislators lack the courage to run a bill to make the process more transparent. I would be willing to do that even if nobody signed on to it. I would hope that they would all get on board, even though it might hurt some of them in the long run. Thank you.
I'm also running a traditional campaign with almost everybody on this table. I'm accepting donations from anybody in this room. I've raised about $6,000 or $7,000, mostly from individuals. $100 checks, $50 checks, $5 checks. I am fundraising to do mailers, and I bought a lot of signs, and believe me, it's going to be hard work to put them up. You guys will see a lot of signs all over this district that say Mosley, constitutional conservative. As far as dark money goes, I guess this is one of the first times I heard of dark money being IEs, independent expenditures. So I hope that people spend independent expenditures because they like me so much. You know, because I can't get money from any lobbyists because I'm not an incumbent. And so, you know, I hope to get any support from any direction I can get it from. So thank you.
Well, interestingly, 2 years ago when I ran for this office, I did run clean elections, and with all due respect to the people that are putting on this event, I'm not clean elections because traditional, it is a lot easier. There's a lot, you get to meet people, you actually interact with people. It's very difficult, a lot of rules with clean elections, and it's just too much. It's just too much in being able to say what you want to say, do what you want to do, and actually carry on a campaign. I'm running a traditional campaign this time, and I'm accepting donations from people that want to give me donations. I've run it across a lot of people, mostly friends that I've known for years that have given me money, but how far that'll go, and as far as dark money, again, I reiterate what Mr. Gould said, and that is that you can't accept dark money because you can't coordinate that. So, and as far as I know, I'm not receiving any help from dark money.
Okay, thank you. This question will start with Ron. What are the two biggest problems facing rural Arizona? And you will have 60 seconds.
Let me go back to dark money for a minute. No, seriously, the reason that dark money exists in the state of Arizona is because the legislature legalized dark money this last session. They increased the opacity of elections. They gave their candidates can now transfer money from one committee to another committee. This was done by the people, our members of the legislature. This did not increase transparency. And what they did is ridiculous. What you can do now is, as long as you filed for your tax exempt status with the IRS, you can go ahead and spend dark money. So you can do whatever you want. So if you have any problems with dark money and money being spent that you can't figure out where it came from, take a look at your sitting members of the legislature, because they're the ones that did this to you. The two biggest problems in Arizona, I believe overregulation is one of the biggest problems in the state of Arizona. I don't think that business needs to be regulated by other businesses. We have a scheme of self-regulation in Arizona. What that is your competitors get to regulate you. And thank you.
Sonny.
What was the original question?
Okay, I'll repeat the question. What are the two biggest problems facing rural Arizona?
Oh, transportation funding, roads. I try to this is what I'm talking about building relationships in Phoenix. Maricopa County has over 30 legislators that represent Maricopa County because they all gerrymander through there and they all reside there. Here in our district, for 2 counties, we have 3 legislators. So, you know, it takes us trying to build relationships and, you know, and some type of cohesion to make the folks realize in Maricopa County that there's more to the state than Maricopa. We try to drive that message home that we are the gateway to Arizona. I mean, this is where our economy thrives on, our tourism, and even up in Kingman, because it's a logistical hub. I tell everybody, I know when I get into my district because I get off the nice highway and I'm on Rattle Road because I can tell the difference between where our counties end and the other one begins. Transportation
Thank you. Jennifer?
and jobs. Did you say stop? You didn't say stop? Okay, sorry. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Give her extra.
Mark Twain said that whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting. I think that water in the desert and protecting our aquifers, protecting our water sources for future generations is absolutely one of the most important things that we need to address. It's been stated before in other debates, well, water law is complicated. And no, it's not. If you have a well and someone is putting the big sippy straw in your aquifer, whether it be a solar project on BLM land or something like that, and you have what's called subsidence and your well starts to go dry, your property is gone. Who do you redress your grievances to for that? And the BLM is the other biggest problem that we have. I think it's something like 84% of Arizona is federally managed. Let's be correct about that, not federally owned. So every one of these municipalities is landlocked by the Bureau of Land Management. We get something called PILT, payment in lieu of taxes. It's something like 17 cents on the dollar compared to what the counties would get for property taxes on that very same land. There's no room for growth.
The two largest problems that rural Arizona is facing right now is jobs. We need jobs. There's a lot of jobs down in Phoenix. There's a lot of companies down in Phoenix. And you know what? Hildy Angus is sitting right here. And I am very proud that she and the other Board of Supervisors in our state was able to bring DOT foods into our county, into Mojave Valley. I'm glad that they made that investment to bring those jobs into our county. And I also agree with Sonny. Transportation, infrastructure, and roads are very, very, very important. We need government to maintain our roads. Now, Interstate 11 is going to be built between Phoenix and Idaho, and eventually further than that. That actually does go through our county of Mojave County. It goes through Wickiup and through Kingman and then up through Las Vegas. I'm excited about that freeway, that new freeway that's coming. And I also want all the rural roads to be taken care of. Thank you.
You stole mine. The two biggest issues in rural Arizona are transportation, infrastructure, and economic development. As somebody, I just recently made a trip over to Globe this past weekend, and the infrastructure outside of Phoenix is terrible, and it's universal in rural Arizona. It's something that gets overlooked. And one of the hardest things you have to tell people in Phoenix is in order to get to Phoenix, they got to travel through rural Arizona to get there. So you need to take care of the roads there so they can get to Phoenix. That sometimes seems very difficult to get across. And I think it's one of those things that you have to build relationships. I served on the Rural Transportation Advocacy Council for many years while I was on the city council. And it is an uphill battle all the time. So it's something that we need to work on. As far as economic development, there's this mindset that everything has to be put in Phoenix, and we need to change that. We have a lot of things that we can offer. I mean, we had the transportation, the DOT foods moving to Mojave County. We need to slingshot that into more for rural Arizona.
Just two issues. That makes it difficult because there are so many issues. And a few years ago, I probably would have had these issues a little bit different organizationally wise, but I feel like that the transportation, the HER funding, highway user funds, and that is always an issue here. I think that feeds right into our economic development. I think that that's one of those things that it all kind of goes together. But the other issue is the water issue. We have high water users moving in and draining our aquifers. We have to come up on a solution here, on a way to limit the amount of water that these high water users are using and be able to still maintain our freedom as far as having our own wells without being metered or having an AMA. So I think the water issue is a real big issue that's going to come up over this next couple of years, along with the transportation issues and the economic development.
Okay, this question will start with Sonny, and unfortunately, this starts to happen as we get deeper. Two of you just touched on this question already, so you'll get to chat about it a little more. We'll have 60 seconds for this one. And Sonny, do you understand the Arizona water law, and what do you believe the Arizona legislature can do to protect Mojave County aquifers?
Well, it was touched on earlier. I mean, our water law has been treated and negotiated and contracted, and it would take a whole room full of lawyers to unravel that and figure it out. And it's just not a simple solution. We have AMAs and IMAs and all kinds of way things are set up in the state. It would take a whole session of just a whole team to try to unravel that on the state level. And we have to understand that we have treaties and agreements with other states. So it's not just a simple solution to, it's a tough question, but it cannot be, resolved in pretty much a 60-second soundbite, and which is unfair because it is so complicated and needs to be addressed because it is a very serious issue.
Jennifer?
Well, it is difficult to grasp it in 60 seconds. That's correct. I'll give him that. However, there are, other things that you can deal with. For instance, gray water usage in industry, how we recycle those things. Do we use injection wells? There's a lot of things that we can look at, and it's not just Mojave County, it's La Paz County, because we have the same problem in La Paz that we do in Mojave, which is massive agriculture. I support agriculture. I support property rights. We have to really look at how we balance property rights versus the use of the aquifer in the best interest of keeping it in perpetuity for future generations. So I think we need to go into ADWR and ADEQ. We need to look at well permits. How many more wells can you drill? How much water can you pump out of those wells? I mean, there are actually things that need to be looked at rather than just giving excuses to the constituency that it's just too complicated and hard to deal with.
I grew up around agriculture. My aunt and uncle have a farm in Fallon and Winnemucca, Nevada, and my mom grew up in a farm in Panaca, Nevada. And you know what? Nevada has water issues just like we have water issues, but we're in a closed system. Earth has water, and that water, we might have some, too much in some places and not enough in some other places, but the water, you can't destroy it, right? The water that's in the Earth's atmosphere, right, is here. And you can't, it always is coming back through the cycle, right? And agriculture is very important because that's the lifeblood of our society. If you want to see our food prices skyrocket and our meat prices skyrocket, then, you start taking away and metering, wells and stuff like that and telling farmers in America where it's free, oh no, you can't sell your farm to him, you have to sell it to him. We need to keep free the freedom and the liberty that America stands for, right? The farms, good.
Could you repeat the question, please?
I will. Okay. Do you understand the Arizona water law, and what do you believe the Arizona legislature can do to protect Mojave County aquifers?
Well, let me start off by saying I understand a lot about Arizona water law. I didn't when I first got on the city council in Bullhead City, but through my 12 years on the city council in Bullhead City, we dealt with water extensively. We had to deal with purchasing Colorado River rights that were originally given to the city of Kingman, turned over to the Mojave County Water Authority, and we're still in the process of purchasing that water. We were also responsible for securing additional water from farmers in Cibola, which is in La Paz County, so that we could establish enough water here in Bullhead City, and we have enough water in Bullhead City to support a population of 103,000 if we needed to. We also had to deal with the Central Arizona Project, and when it came to what water lawyers call firming the water, which is nothing but a fancy word for ensuring that the water is actually there, dealing with underground aquifers that are being recharged by excess Colorado River water, and et cetera, et cetera. So the answer to that question, yes, I've dealt with a lot of water law. I understand all the different priority waters.
As I said in the past, I originally came in to the legislature not knowing a lot about the water issues. But one of the reasons I asked to be on Egg, Water, and Land is so that I can learn about this, because I knew this was going to be an issue that we were going to have in our district. La Paz has issues. Mojave County has issues. Cochise County has issues. All of them have the same issues. They've all have these large water users that are coming in and putting too many straws into the ground and taking the water out. Last year, Representative Stevens started a bill up, and it came through the process, but it had unintended consequences. But it was one of those that was going to be kind of like a metering law, and but we have to be able to balance that, and that's the issue we have. We got to balance that between our regular farmers and our regular ranchers that do not want to have any kind of metering because they feel like that if it started to go to metering, it's going to continue on in doing that. So we have to. There's got to be a balance between those two, but we have to find that balance. Next Tuesday night, I think it is, we're going to be having Tuesday or Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Both.
Wednesday. The meeting in Kingman. Be there.
In Arizona water law, surface water is treated differently than groundwater. Groundwater is property. And if you have water rights, that water belongs to you. The problem is quantifying the amount of water that's in the ground and making sure that you're not stealing your neighbor's water. That's the real rub. Mojave County is on the largest unregulated aquifer in the state. Most of the other large aquifers are what's called a water management area. And if you take a look at the Prescott Valley area, all the water in the Prescott Valley is allocated. That means it already it belongs to someone. So if you want to build a house or do a development in Yavapai County, you need to go buy somebody else's water rights. I don't think that's the system that we want to go into here in Mojave and La Paz counties. Water is complicated, folks, but it is property, and we need to remember that.
Okay, thank you. This next question, we'll start with Jennifer. Economic development is one of the important issues for Bullhead City slash Mojave County. 20 years ago, we tried to get a new highway built from Havasu to Highway 68, and which would provide for high-speed travel to get onto I-40. What can we do at the state level to make this happen? 60 seconds.
Well, I used to spend my summers in Oklahoma. I showed dogs, and I used to travel a lot and home base out of a friend's place there. And, you know, one of the things that I was interested in is the fact that they have toll roads. And I don't have a problem with that if we need funding, because, you know, you have people coming up from Mexico wanting to go to Canada, you have truckers, you have, if they're paying for the road that they're driving on and you sunset that, then at least you have access to that road. I don't have a problem with maybe people with an Arizona driver's license being able to flash that at the toll booth. If there's no funding anywhere else and that road is essential to economic development, then maybe we need to look at that and how that has worked in other states to possibly get that road built. I don't even have a problem with I-11 being a state highway and charging the feds to use it. I'm endorsed by the contractors that build the freeways because I believe that infrastructure is essential to Arizona. We have a magazine, Arizona Highways, right? We used to be proud of our highways so much.
So the question has to do with just the...
What can you do at the state level to try to accomplish having a road built from Havasu basically to 68 over here?
Well, you work with other people. You respect other people, and you get to be friends with the Speaker of the House, and you work with people over in the Senate, and you try to allocate money towards that direction. If that's the most important thing in Mojave County and La Paz County is to build a road from Havasu to 68, then you work with others and you respect others. I'd love to have a road that would, make it faster from Havasu to Phoenix.
Sam?
Let's be realistic. That road between Highway 68 and Interstate 40 is going to cost tens of millions of dollars to complete. Could be held up by environmental studies from here to eternity. While it probably would have been something that we could have really accomplished 20 years ago when it was first started, I got to be honest with you, and just being straight up blunt with this, I don't think it's even really a possibility right now to even consider. We've got a Department of Transportation that barely has enough funding to maintain the roads that they have here now. So building something like that is going to fall onto something along the lines of the Mojave County Board of Supervisors, the Bullhead City Council, and since they don't have enough money to take care of their roads, I really don't see it being an option right now. So I think we would be better off working on other economic development opportunities with the existing infrastructure that we have, with the hopes of improving what we can that already exists.
This is a difficult question because the Department of Transportation has a formula that they go by, and you have to go to that formula, and we do not get to say what that formula is. The Department of Transportation gets the money, they say where it's allocated to. One of the things that we've worked on over the last few years was getting back our HERF money. So, you know, we're starting to improve roads. That's what we need to work on now. Then we can start working on building more roads. I don't have any issues with building more roads, more bridges, all those things. Every time I see that, I'm thinking, yes, more economic development, more people coming in, more businesses coming in like DOT. I love to see that, but we have to be able to fund those departments to where they can have the funding to be able to do that. Tens of millions of dollars is exactly what that's going to take, and where are we going to get that from? So that's a difficult one to say that we'll be able to do that over the next 2 years. I don't think we can.
Transportation funding in Arizona is not, the projects are not decided by the legislature. They're decided by the State Highway Commission, or State Transportation Commission. They're the ones that decide which projects get funding. The reason that was done was to depoliticize highway funding, because otherwise you'd have every politician in there trying to bring home pork to their district, and pork is not how the best decisions are made. I'd like to see that proposed road get back on the future plan. I believe it's been removed from the future plan. So it's not even in the lineup, in the queue, so to speak, anymore. We need to put it back in the queue. You do have a major problem with all the businesses, egress and ingress off of State Route 95 in Bullhead City. Traffic is terrible, and we need to do something. We probably need to do something sooner than waiting for that bypass road, because that is a long-range project. Did 2 years as the Senate Transportation Chairman, so I know a little bit about transportation. Funding is actually controlled by what they call the Casa Grande Accord. And the Casa Grande Accord is not a peace treaty in the Balkans. It's actually transportation funding. Thank you.
And having been on the Transportation Committee for the last 4 years, Ron hit the nail on the head. This is a long-term project that even if the federal government, well, of course, number one, the federal government is broke. The state's in debt. We financed all of our buildings. So what we need to do, for one thing, is we need to right our financial ship and get rid of our own state debt, control our own spending, and at least to clear a pathway, because it's not going to happen in 4 years. We have to clear a pathway for maybe when Paul's kids are old enough to be in the legislature, they could be able to deal with that, because it's not going to happen anytime soon.
Okay. Any other questions out there? I have one more to go.
Texas has passed and is establishing their own gold depository / central bank. Has Arizona done that, or are we planning on signing on with that? You're all looking puzzled, so like I said, it's a little off the wall.
I'll let one or all respond if they'd like. Go ahead, Ron.
That we actually gave the treasurer the authority to coin money in a budget bill several years ago. And we did that it was 12 because it was a centennial. So the treasurer can coin money. It either has to be gold, silver, or copper, since Arizona is the copper state. I'm always looking into a state bank. North Dakota has a state bank, and that they use their infrastructure as the backing for their state bank. So it's an interesting, once again, it's a complex issue that can't be addressed in 60 seconds, but it is something to look at. But the treasurer does have the authority to coin money.
The point of that question was that Texas is preparing for the imminent collapse of the Federal Reserve. So it's a little bit different than stamping out coins. They want to replace the checking infrastructure and everything else.
I'll make a quick response to that. Representative Fincham had a couple of bills last year and the year before that he ran that would allow you to trade coins instead of using currency, instead of using actual dollars, and it was vetoed. So I don't think in this administration that's going to be something that we're going to be looking at real soon.
Coming down
Okay.
the line. Yeah,
Anyone else want to touch it?
Yeah, Representative Fitcham introduced that bill twice. It was the legal tender bill. I supported it last 2 years, and it got close. We got the governor, got it up to the governor, but he vetoed it. He wasn't too keen on the language in there.
Run the bill again. Fix the language. You know, I agree with you. We are in a very precarious economic position federally. You know, even the state of Arizona has had some problems with debt incurred by previous administrations. I also agree with Senator Gould that the North Dakota model for state bank is a very good idea, and I suggest that people go home and look that up on the internet. It's very good for business loans and increasing economic development. Anything that we can do to wean ourselves off from the federal government is a good idea to me.
Everybody good? Okay. I'll have this as an open question too for one or all, because I'm not sure there's a lot you can do, but it is a question to ask. The question comments about problems with VA access, and of course here it's VA access is in Laughlin, Nevada. And obviously we have problems nationwide with the VA. Is there anything that we can do at the state level to address these problems? And again, anybody who wants to grab it, or go ahead.
Well, as a retired Marine and chairman of the Military Affairs and Public Safety Committee, I've been dealing with the VA since I retired from the Marine Corps in 1999. And I deal with a lot of vets that have issues with the VA. I've been doing that for years, even before I ran for city council, just helping out vets when they had issues and trying to get through the system. And the card choice thing was a good start, but then once again, Congress gave a bureaucratic agency rule-making authority. I mean, this is how goofy the system is. The card choice system is designed so if you live outside the 40-mile radius of the VA facility, i.e. hospital, that you can use a card and you can go to any doctor. Well, the problem is we'll have a clinic here, and let's say in Bullhead, so you got to make an appointment with the Bullhead clinic. They refer you to the hospital. If they can't get you in 30 days, they'll refer you out for your card choice. Well, unfortunately, they made the rules, or they said, well, sorry, but card choice doesn't work because you still live within a 40-mile radius of a VA clinic. So wherever you go, it's that vicious circle. And the only thing we can do, it's not really just it's just to continue to keep pounding on the VA and working with our Arizona delegation in Washington to just keep knocking on the door and kicking rattling their cages because they're getting away with murder, honestly. Yeah.
Oh. This is a prime example of why you don't want government running your health care. They've done a terrible job with the VA. What they should do is voucher these guys out and give them a medical insurance card to let them go to the doctor of their choice. They deserve that. They serve their country. They put their life on the line. They deserve the promises that we made to them. I was talking to a gentleman up in Kingman about the VA taking over the hospital that's out on the east side of town, which I think is a very interesting idea. I don't think that the state has much to do with that other than we can attempt to influence our federal legislators to take a look at that, because that might be an option. But the ultimate goal should be to privatize that program and give those guys an insurance card that they deserve. Women also. Folks.
Yeah.
We're part of it, aren't we?
True folks.
Yeah. Again, what Ron just said, that was what I was going to say, is we need to privatize it. And you need to be partnering with your federal government partners, your senators, your congressmen, and you need to be letting them know that this needs to be done. We've been trying to express to them how much we want to push towards this, how want to push towards the privatization. When Ron was talking about the hospital out there that's owned by the other hospital, it's actually kind of a monopoly out there right now because they got both hospitals. But it was difficult even to get the VA clinic that we have out there right now. One of the things that I've been trying to work with my congressmen and my senators with is just trying to get x-rays out there. That's been difficult. Get the wait list down. Try to see some people within Kingman so they don't have to travel to Prescott. I mean, I think that would even cut down on the cost for them if they would do that. They're just not looking at common sense solutions. And that's what we got to get them to do, is to look at the common sense solutions for these guys and gals.
Folks.
Yeah.
Sure. I think the most important thing that all of us can do to really address the situation with the VA is to retire John McCain and get him out of office. He's not supporting our veterans. He's only using them as a campaign tool. He talks a lot, but he has done nothing meaningful. I think we need to replace him with Senator Kelly Ward, who's an emergency room physician, and so is her husband, who's also a military doctor at the state level currently serving. We also need to get rid of Paul Gosar in Congress and replace him with Ray Strauss. We need to get rid of Flake in 2 years. We need, if your public servants are not doing their job, don't send them back to do it again. That goes for the people setting up here. You deserve better. And as voters, all of us, even if we can't deal with federal issues at the state level, we can certainly try and grease the wheels or facilitate things in some way. But if your elected officials are not doing their job, throw them out, recycle them, go green, and put somebody else in there and give them a chance. Thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting. Every Tuesday at the TV station, we get telephone calls, and there, we go through spurts where we get complaints about the VA, and some of the stories are just absolutely heartbreaking, and they're sharing them with everybody that watches the show. And it's difficult for us to sit there and do nothing, and that's, both the owner of the TV station and myself, we constantly are calling on their behalf to see if we can do whatever we can do to move things along. As a state legislator, even though it is a federal issue, when I was a city councilman and we didn't like what the state legislature was doing, we pounded on their doors. When we didn't like what the Mojave County Board of Supervisors were doing, we pounded on their doors. And we let them know, because we represented the people of Bullhead City. As a state legislature, you represent the people of Arizona. And if something's not right with your federal government, because keep in mind, the federal government didn't create the states created the federal government, and it's our responsibility to let them know how we feel.
Okay, Paul?
So healthcare is definitely a very complicated thing, where right now it's the law that you have to have health insurance. I sell health insurance for a living, and my health insurance premiums have gone from $375 to $650 to $1,250 a month. So I pay $15,000 a year for health insurance, and we don't use it because all 8 of us are healthy, and my wife's a registered nurse. Okay. Now it is kind of ridiculous that the costs have gone through the roof, but with the VA, what I believe should happen is we have 50 states, and each of the 50 states is better at managing their people and their stuff than the federal government is at managing stuff, right? So we need to push stuff back down to the states, give more control back to the states, so the states can take care of our veterans. Because the VA scandal happened in Phoenix, Arizona. Guess what? That is a travesty, that we're not taking care of our veterans who served our country. We need to take care of them, whatever it takes to take care of them. Make sure they don't die on us.
Okay, the final question for this evening, and we'll begin with Paul. It'll be 60 seconds. Governor Ducey wants to reduce state income taxes. Do you support this effort? And if so, how do you expect the rural areas to replace the loss of state shared revenue?
I absolutely support reducing the taxes. 80% of the business owners and businesses and people are employed by small businesses. Our income revenue in the state is only about 2.9% from corporate income tax. 15% of the revenue pie is from income tax. So if they reduce that income tax, we're not going to lose a huge chunk, right? We're going to lose part of 15%. And it won't be that hard to replace it with, sales tax and other things like that. Use taxes, right? So I definitely support Governor Doug Ducey's attempt to reduce the income tax, because what it does is it reduces all the people of Arizona's income tax. Each one of us will have a lower tax, and that will stimulate our economy, and that will invite businesses and business owners to come to our state, so that people who want to work hard and people who want to grow and have our economic growth here in Arizona will come.
Sam?
I believe that the state income tax could be cut and go down. I shudder at the thought that we actually consider cutting taxes as a cost to the state. That's not what cutting taxes should ever be looked at. Cutting taxes should be like giving your money back to you, not an expense to the state. If the state legislature deems that that's a statewide concern, that we have lower income taxes and or no income tax at all, then I believe that that's something that the cities and towns and counties need to get behind as well. I understand. This is one area where I do differ with the cities, because the cities are like, oh, you're going to hurt our funding. But if it's a statewide thing that we're going to cut taxes for everybody across the board, then everybody needs to get on board. It's one of those things that we can't divvy up, and how are we going to make up the lost income? We just learn to live without it. I know it's tough, but I think we just learn to live without it. But I also think that the legislature needs to know that they have to also lead by example and live without it.
Well, after working through the budget the last couple of years, I do definitely support reduction in income tax, but I do not think this is the time to do it. We just dug ourselves out of a hole. We're just paying off rollover debts. We're just trying to get ourselves on an even foot. Now, what we do now is we do a 3-year budget, and we kind of project out how we're going. If our projections are correct, then we're going to do great. If we start going into another recession, we're not going to be able to do that. I would love to do it, but we got to find ways of doing it, and we got to be a little bit more creative about how we're going to do it. Living without is one way, and that's what we did last year, and it wasn't a very popular thing that I did. When we reduced the budget and it came in with reductions to everybody across the board, it wasn't a popular thing. So if we're going to reduce income tax, we're going to have to do that again. And so we just got to be more creative without doing that. And that's what I'm hoping to find over the next few years.
If you want to eliminate the income tax, you probably need to cut about 1/3 of the state's budget. You need to reduce spending, and you will see an economic increase due to the reduction of taxes. If we become one of the states that does not have an income tax, that will spur economic development, because I believe the best thing that you can do for economic development is create a low, broad-based taxing system that's fair to everybody, that doesn't involve handouts to special people, so that everybody knows that if they come to Arizona, bring their business to Arizona, they're going to get a fair shake. And I think that we can do this because in 2005, the budget was $6.2 billion. At one point, it was $11.3 billion. Now it's down to $9.4 billion. So I believe it's doable, and I believe it would spur the economy in Arizona. And when you really think about it, what right does government have to your income? You know, taxation is really theft unless it's going to things that we all use. So if you take my money and you redistribute it to other people, if you and I did that, if our neighbor had 2 cars and we had a neighbor with no car, and we gave that car to that other person, we'd call that theft. Thank you.
And I'll pick it up just from that. By eliminating, and I would support eliminating the personal income tax. It will spur economic development, or actually economic stimulation, because it's your money, and it will shrink the size of government, because the Department of Revenue can just eliminate one complete department, and therefore we're shrinking some of the state agencies, one state agency right off the bat. But it's more money in your pocket, and what you choose to do with it the state will actually get an increase in revenue just from sales tax. That will help the local community, the county, state, everybody wins on that deal. So, like I said, it will shrink the size of government, because the Department of Revenue won't just they'll have one less job to do, and that's collecting your money to turn right around and give it back to you anyway at the end of tax season, because a lot of people have a lot of tax deductions. So it's just a waste of time to have the DOR. So I support getting rid of the personal income tax and reducing the corporate income tax and business taxes.
And finally, Jennifer.
Okay. People have certain expectations of their government. They expect certain things to be provided to them. If we're going to cut 1/3 of the budget, you need somebody like me in committee, when bills are being run, asking, what is the financial consequence of implementing this bill? Too often bills come through the legislature and nobody stops to ask that question. Oh, that sounds like a great idea, let's do it. We find out later there was a hidden cost in passing that bill. You need somebody that's going to be watching your money at every turn. Part of the problem with state shared revenue is when you sweep it away, you have to raise it somewhere at the local level. I much prefer that you sit across the cafe table and stare at the guy on your city council who's talking about raising your taxes to pay for this project or that project, because then he feels it. Too often the people don't really have face-to-face contact to stare down their legislators about how their money's being spent. So I would support getting rid of the income tax, but you need to be able to have somebody in there fighting to watch that money in order to make that possible. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes the questions for this evening. We'll give each candidate 60 seconds for conclusion. We'll come back across the table and we'll begin with Ron.
Once again, my name is Ron Gould, and I'm a candidate for the state senate. I was the #1 conservative when I was in the legislature, and that's just not my own words. That's actually the words of the Goldwater Institute and Americans for Prosperity. I have an A+ rating with the National Rifle Association. I have a 100% pro-life voting record. I was a sponsor of Arizona's Protection of Marriage amendment that was struck by the Supreme Court when they decided to allow homosexual marriage. I hope that you'll vote for me in the upcoming Republican primary on August 30th. Thank you.
And again, I'm Regina Cobb. I'm your state representative right now. And I hope to be over the next 2 years also. I have, over the past 2 years, I have worked very hard for you. And I feel like I've done a good job. And I feel like if you want to have that same kind of work ethics of someone, you'll vote me back in there again. I'm a common sense person. I'm a pro-life, pro-Second Amendment Republican. Like I said, I've worked hard. I come from a family of 14. I worked my way through college myself, and I know what the value of hard work is. I plan on doing a lot over the next few years with welfare reform, and I also plan on doing a lot with tax reforms and insurance reforms. And hopefully we won't have to deal with Obamacare in a few years. Thank you.
Want to thank you for having us here tonight. My name again is Sam Medrano. I'm running for the Arizona House of Representatives. You actually get to vote for 2. And I want to tell you that I have a track record of being a fighter for Bullhead City and for Mojave County and building coalitions to make that happen, building a team. Let me tell you real quick about a team. 3 years ago, the Nevada legislature decided they were going to try to pass a law that would charge Arizona residents vehicle registration fees to work in Nevada. And as you know, here in Bullhead City, there's a lot of people that live in Bullhead City and work in Nevada. And I actually not only built a coalition with the Laughlin Town Advisory Board, I actually flew to Carson City and testified against that bill, and it actually got killed. Also build relationships with the people in the state legislature. We had House Speaker Andy Tobin actually call on our behalf to the Speaker of the Nevada Assembly. We got that bill killed because we built the necessary coalitions to get it done. We need to do the same thing at the state legislature, and I'm the person that can get it done. Vote Sam Medrano, state rep.
I'm Paul Mosley. I'm a small business owner. I'm a family guy. I'm a father. I'm a certified financial planner, and I want to represent you in the Arizona House of Representatives. I'm excited to be as young as I am and as vibrant as I am and be able to start helping the people in Arizona and the people in Mojave County, the people in La Paz County. I want to lower taxes, I want to shrink the size of government, and I want to keep the free market free. I want to be an advocate for you, my constituents. I love and respect you. I'll listen to others, I'll work well with others, and I want to be your representative for the Arizona House of Representatives. Thank you.
I'm Jennifer Jones. I'm endorsed by 6-term U.S. Congressman and former presidential candidate Tom Tancredo, Quartzsite Mayor Ed Foster, Mojave County Republican Director Nan Nichols, and many others. I'm also endorsed by the Sonoran Alliance and the Arizona Citizens Defense League with an A+ rating on the Second Amendment. It's roughly a 100-day legislative session. I can work with anyone who honors their oath of office and votes constitutionally, so I don't care who sits in the other House seat for this district, because I have other friends in the legislature to work with for the benefit of the people. This district needs a winning team, and I'm willing to be your team captain. I'm asking that you elect Ron Gould to the Senate as my coach. As far as the Three Stooges, they're good for a few laughs, but the laws that govern our state and how your money is spent is very, very serious. On August 30th, do not dilute your vote by choosing a second candidate for this seat. If you believe, as I believe, that you deserve better than what you've had, then make it count and cast only one vote, and I will lead by example. Please like my Facebook page, Jennifer Jones, for the Arizona House 2016. Thank you.
Finally, sir.
Well, I've been your state representative for 4 years. I've received several awards, and you can see my awards and numerous endorsements. So you can pick up ads pay. They're all listed in here in the month, June issue, July, and August. So you can see all that. Over the last 4 years, I've been able to get model legislation through for Arizona that for tort reform. Went after a state agency that felt that they can run their own rules and impose a prepayment penalty tax because they wanted to impose their own rules through their own agenda without any oversight from the legislature. I've ran bills that help out our county jails. I've petitioned the Attorney General that actually proved once and for all that the photo radar was operating outside the Arizona revised statutes. I was on the ground floor getting the Border Security Task Force implemented, and I'm taking care of our vets. I'm Sonny Borrelli. I say improve your net, hire a vet. Sonny for Senate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And again, we would like to first start and thank the candidates for coming to our community this evening. And for those of you out there, we thank you as well for taking the time to come and inform yourselves before voting. We encourage you to visit www.azcleanelections.gov, where you can find information on the upcoming elections, download the Clean Elections app, and learn about the candidates running for office. A link to the video of this debate, as well as other clean election debates, will be posted on the site within 72 hours of this evening. If you should have been given, please fill out a debate evaluation form and return it to one of the volunteers. And again, we'd like to thank you all for coming this evening, and you're welcome to stay here and speak to the candidates. Thank you so much.